Okay, guys. Another big development we have seen recently, that Great Nicobar project has been in the news. This project, as we have seen, it was initiated in 2021, and now again it has been in the news. And this particular thing is very important with regards to your paper 1 society and in paper 3 economics and environment, right? So please bear with us. We'll dive into. Okay. So today we are going to talk about the Great Nicobar Island project, or GNI project. And in this, what we will do is that we will cover the development, obviously, and then about the Great Nicobar Island project, strategic and geopolitical significance, hydrocarbon potential, indigenous tribes and social challenges, environmental impacts and denotifications, flora and landscape, conservation status and protected areas, and finally we will do some of the PYQs that UPSC has asked with regards to Andaman and Nicobar Island, and that is one of the favorite area or zone from where UPSC asks a question. So let's start with why this particular project is in the news. The reason was that there has been a recent relocation plan with regards to Nicobarese tribe, right? So basically it is not in Andaman, it is in Nicobar Island, right, which is below Andaman Islands, where this particular project is situated. And recently what we have seen, that a draft plan has been circulated where the two tribes of your Nicobar Island has been in the news because they have the question is that with regards to their displacement, right? And this has caused confusion and fear, right? So what is this particular project about? What about the Great Nicobar Island project, right? So first, it is very important that it was the mastermind Niti Aayog who conceived it in 2021. And the project is implemented by ANIDCO, ANIIDCO, right? And ANIDCO was established in 1988. It was established in 1988 under Companies Act of 1956, right? ANIDCO was established as a corporation in 1988 under 1956 Companies Act of 1956. Okay. Now, this is very important that it aligns with the Maritime Vision 2030 and Amrit Kal Vision of 2047, this particular project. There are multi-component of this project. Primarily, we can align them into 4 pillars. So what are the 4 pillars if we see? So we have the transshipment port, international airport, township and power infrastructure on the Great Nicobar Island, right? So let's see where the project is located. So this is your Great Nicobar Island, right? And this is your Great Nicobar Island, okay? Here you have your gas and solar based plant, right? This is your transshipment. This is very important. This is this area. This area is your transshipment. Guys, I guess you will be recognizing Indira Point over here, the southernmost point of India. And here you will have the dual use civilian and military international airport. And finally, here you have your township. This is your township, okay? And this is your, this region, this particular region. Here you will have your gas and solar based power plant, right? And what is another thing very important over here is that this particular container port will handle 16 million TEUs. What is the full form of TEUs? That is 20 units of, the 20-foot units. We've seen like in ports those, those big containers, right? So it can handle around 16 million a year. And the natural draft, a deep port, it's a deep port, a natural draft is 20+ meters. So India does not have such depth in the port. And that is the reason why what happens is that India has to rely for transshipment in other countries like Colombo of Sri Lanka and Singapore, right? So basically what happens, let's say that goods comes from Middle East or America. So first it goes to Colombo, it gets, transferred to Indian ships, which are smaller in size, and then it comes to India. So this transshipment cost actually costs India around $200 million every year. Every year it costs around $200 million, which is again an exorbitant cost. And the fact that the government thought that this particular area can be developed because it is a deep port. Like you have around 20 plus meter natural draft. So, big ships can enter this particular port, right? So obviously the natural thing is that we can save around 200 million every year. Now, apart from this, we have to understand that the project cost is around 72,000 crore. Somewhere it's reported around 90,000 crore. Somewhere it's reported around 81,000 crore, but it's like around 72 to 90,000 crore. Okay? Now, let's understand what is the strategic and geopolitical significance. Now, this is very important. We have to understand this particular thing is very important, the strategic and geopolitical. Okay, so now we will understand the strategic and geopolitical significance. There are three things you have to keep in mind, very important. Three things we'll keep in mind. The first is that its proximity to maritime choke point. Which is a choke point? The choke point here I'm talking about is Strait of Malacca, right? The choke point I'm talking about is Strait of Malacca, and it is, the Great Nicobar lies 40 nautical miles. It's very near, right? It's very near your Strait of Malacca, and 30 to 40% of global trade and large share of Asian energy import pass. So majorly, if you see, Southeast Asian countries depends on this particular choke point or this particular Strait of Malacca, because hydrocarbons from your Middle East passes through this particular strait, and even China also depends on this particular strait. And there is a concept called your Malacca dilemma. Malacca dilemma is something which China suffers because heavy presence of US in this particular region, right? And where Chinese are obviously vulnerable, right? They can, because it's a choke point, if there is any conflict, this particular choke point will be one where they will block it, right? So that's the reason why this is called Malacca dilemma. And again, the second, what is the second strategic interest? Because enhances India's Indo-Pacific naval reach, because it's very near this particular choke point, only 40 nautical miles. And another thing is that economic hub aims to internalize 75% of India's transshipment. As I've talked, around $200 million. 200 million is, 200 million is spent because India does not have this deep ports, right, where you can bring big ships. So India has to offload all the goods in big ports like Colombo ports and Singapore. From there it comes to India, right? Okay, then we'll go to the hydrocarbon potential. Now if you see, now this is very interesting. Recently if you see that the Andaman Nicobar Basin, which covers around 47,000 square kilometer, including deep waters, and forms part of major island arc system extending from Myanmar to Indonesia, and there has been a huge potential, hydrocarbon potential, right? And the second is this particular gas hydrates have also been found over here. Gas hydrate or hydrates or methane hydrates, right? And UPSC has asked question on this. So guys, I'd like you to comment on this section, like what are gas hydrates? You can write in the comment section, right? And then we'll move on to the indigenous tribes and social challenges. Like this is the reason why this particular development has happened and this particular project is in the news. So if we see that this Shompen tribes, like there are hardly 300 people, right? So they are very extremely vulnerable. They are very alienated, right? And vulnerable to external diseases, right? Second is the Nicobarese, now seeking return to ancestors. So basically, after 2004, we know that in 2004 what happened? In 2004, there was a huge tsunami. So basically what happened was there was a mass displacement for whom? For the Nicobarese. So we find two tribes over here. Number one is your Shompen, the second is Nicobarese, right? So Nicobarese shifted or was displaced because of 2004, your tsunami. Now what happened? Because of this project, they could not return to their ancestral land. Because of this project, they could not or they cannot return to their ancestral land, which falls within the project area, right? Now, before we move on to the another pillar, let's understand 6 native tribes inhabit the island. Look, there are only 6 natives which inhabit Andaman and Nicobar. 2 we have already learned, which are the 2, Shompen and Nicobarese. These are the 2, remember. And there are other 4 which are in the Andaman Islands. Which are they? UNGIST, Sentinelese, Jarawas, and Andamanis. There are 4. So you remember it in this way, right? J for Jarawas, O for UNGIST, then S for Sentinelese, right? And then A for Andamanis. Like you can remember Josa. You can remember Josa, right? So Jarawas, UNGIST, Sentinelese, and Andamanis, right? Now, which is very important, these all four belong to the, like, they have a Negroid origin. They have a Negroid origin. But, so these are all your Andaman tribes, right? Andaman tribes. But this particular group, Champagnes and Nicobarese. Remember, Champagne and Nicobarese are from your Nicobar. They are from Nicobar, right? They are from Nicobar. They are of Mongoloid origin. Primarily our northeastern states also are of Mongoloid origin. Now, there is another fascinating thing. Look, so total I told you that there are how many tribes? Total there are 6 tribes, right? But of the 6 tribes, there are only 5 which are PVTGs. So there are how many PVTGs? There are 75 PVTGs, right? Another interesting fact, there are only 2 PVTGs. There are only 2 PVTGs from your northeastern states. Remember this. I want you to tell which are the 2 PVTGs from the northeastern states. You can comment, right? Northeastern states. Only 2 PVTGs, right? Of the 7, there are 75 PVTGs. PVTGs means that particularly vulnerable tribal groups, right? But there are 6, total there are 6 tribes in Andaman and Nicobar, but of them, only 5 are part of PVTGs, right? So you have your Andamanese. Andamanese is where? It is in Andaman, obviously. You have your Jarawas here, you have your Sentinelese here, you have your UNGIST here, you have your Champagnes here, but there is no Nicobarese. Remember, there is no Nicobarese, right? There is no Nicobarese. Remember that. Okay. Now let's move on to the environmental impact. The environmental impacts and denotification. Now this is very important. It is said that the project will wipe out 130 square kilometer of tropical rainforest. That is huge. Right? It will wipe out 130 square kilometer of tropical forest. Total area is around 930 square kilometers, right? Of that, 130 square kilometers will be wiped out. Second, what the government has done, because they have to build this project, what they have done, they have denotified protected areas. Remember, Galathea Bay Wildlife Sanctuary, not park, national park, no, it's wildlife sanctuary. There is a Galathea Bay National Park, but government has denotified which particular protected area? Galathea Bay Wildlife Sanctuary and your Megapod Wildlife Sanctuary were denotified because of this particular project, and that is the reason why, again, many environmentalists have raised concern of this particular project. Now let's understand about Galathea Bay. It's critical nesting site of giant leatherback turtle. Very important. It's very important site for giant leatherback turtle, and obviously for the Megapod Wildlife Sanctuary, you have the Nicobar Megapod, is a ground dwelling bird found only on these islands, right? So it is an endemic bird, right? Another important thing that you have to remember, that Great Nicobarese lies in zone 5, the most active zone in India, and is highly vulnerable to earthquake and tsunamis. And we have seen that it is vulnerable to tsunamis because of 2004, the major tsunami that had struck India. Okay. Now let's see the flora and the fauna. Okay. Now, here it is very important that, and everybody has read in their NCERT, that the islands are part of Sundaland biodiversity hotspot. Now, what I want you to do is that please comment that apart from Sundaland biodiversity hotspot, which other 3 hotspots are there in India, right? Which other 3 hotspots are there in India? Very important. Now, Great Nicobar Island itself is covered by 95% of tropical rainforest. But there is a catch also, and UPSC has asked question, right? What are the forest types? Littoral or coastal wetland forest, mixed evergreen forest, evergreen hill forest. It also features significant mangroves, and it also has corals. Remember, it also has corals, right? It also has corals, and it has deciduous forest also. A portion, it has deciduous forest. Let's see some of the fauna. Let's see some of the fauna. We have talked about giant leatherback turtle. So this is a giant leatherback turtle. What is its IUCN status? It is vulnerable, right? It is vulnerable, right? It's not endangered. It is not critically endangered. It is vulnerable, and critical nesting site is in the northern Indian Ocean and Southeast Asia. Remember this. It's very important. Okay. Okay. Now, this is your Nicobar megapod, and like we discussed, it's a land-dwelling bird, or a ground-dwelling bird of Nicobar Island, known for mound building, right? Nesting in the coastal areas, and IUCN is again vulnerable. IUCN status is again vulnerable, right? Okay. Then we will see this particular Nicobar long-tailed macaque, which is again endemic primate and listed, again it is listed as vulnerable. Now this is a very important and very, creepy looking creature, which is a coconut crab. It's called a coconut crab or a robber crab. Now why it is famous? The UPSC might ask question, why it is famous? That robber crab is the world's biggest land crustacean. It's the world's biggest land crustacean, right? Not ocean dwelling, right? It's the biggest land crustacean. Remember, robber crab, world's biggest land crustacean, and UPSC might ask that, and it is found in Andaman and Nicobar Island. Okay. Now, what are the conservation status, right? So first, the entire island, 85 to 90% of the island, 85% if I'm not wrong, is part of your Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserves, right? Great Nicobar Biosphere Reserves, and it was part of UNESCO's Manned Biosphere Reserves MAP program in 2013. It's part of MAP program in 2013. Can you name another MAP program UNESCO sites in southern India? Right? Comment, please. Now, what are the national parks? UPSC's question, which particular state and union territory has the highest number of national parks? The answer was Andaman and Nicobar Island, right? So, which are the national parks? Mahatma Gandhi Marine National Park, Middle Button, Mount Harriet, North Button, Rani Jhansi Marine National Park, Saddle Peak, South Button, Campbell Bay National Park, and Galathia National Park. Okay? Galathia National Park. Galathia Wildlife Sanctuary has been what? It has been denotified, but not the national park. Okay? Okay. So, as we were discussing, this is Strait of Malacca, right? This is Strait of Malacca. We have your Kuala Lumpur over here. Kuala Lumpur is the capital of which particular country? Malaysia, part of ASEAN, right? This is Kra Isthmus. This is Kra Isthmus. Supposedly, Thailand, Kra Isthmus is in Thailand, right? Or a portion of it lies in Thailand, and Kra Tunnel is supposedly being built by the Thai government, but it is like, there's no surety that it will be built, right? So this part, the lower part, you have your Nicobar Island, and the above part is your Andaman Island, right? And so this is your Great Nicobar, the entire region which is in this is your Great Nicobar, right? This is your Sumatra Island. This is your Sumatra Island. Sumatra Island is part of what? Indonesia, right? Which are the islands which are part of Indonesia? Some of the islands are Sumatra. Then you have your Java. Here you have your Bali, right? Here you have Banda Aceh, Banda Aceh. This is your port city, right? Very important town. So Sumatra, then you have Java, then you have your right? Sumatra, Java, then you have Borneo. Borneo, part of Borneo, the area called Kalimantan. and Indonesia is planning to shift its capital from Jakarta to Kalimantan. As of now, it has not shifted. Then you have your Sulawesi, right? Sulawesi Islands. Then you have your Papua New Guinea Islands, or New Guinea Islands. Papua New Guinea is a country, right? Guinea Islands, and you have your Timor Islands. Primarily, you can see these are the islands of Indonesia. Okay, we deviate though. Let's come to the point. Now, this is very important. This is what your Strait of Malacca is. This is your Strait of Malacca we were talking about. Very near 40 nautical miles. 40 nautical miles, right? This is a choke point. This is a choke point. Another very important thing, this is a 10-degree channel. This 10-degree channel divides whom? Andaman Island and Nicobar Island, right? And then here is your Duncan Passage, which divides whom? South Andaman and Little Andaman. It is very important, remember this. Okay? Okay. Now let's see some of the UPSC PYQs. The Barren Island volcano is an active volcano located in Indian territory. Barren Island lies about 140 km east of Great Nicobar. Right, the last time the Barren Island volcano erupted was in 1991 and it has remained inactive still since then. Look, 1 and 3 are contradictory in nature. Right, they're contradictory in nature. Right, so basically your this is an active volcano, this is right because it erupted in 2017-18. Right, so that makes this one incorrect. So 3 is gone. Right, so answer is 1 only. Barren Island lies about 140 km to the east. No, it is northeast of Andaman Island, right? Northeast of Andaman Island. So this answer is 1 only. Then you have, which one of the following regions of India has a combination of mangrove forest, evergreen forest and deciduous forest? As we discussed, it is your Andaman and Nicobar Island, right? Then which one of the following have coral reefs? Very important, right? Your Andaman has coral reefs, your Gulf of Kutch has coral reefs, Gulf of Mannar has coral reefs. Does Sundarban have coral reefs? No, it does not have coral reefs. Very important. So answer is 1, 2 and 3. Okay. In which one of the following places is the Shompen tribe? Remember Shompen, where is Shompen? It is in Nicobar, right? Along with Shompen, which is another tribe that is found in Nicobar Islands, that is your Nicobarese. Nicobarese. Is Nicobarese a part of PVTG? No, it is not part of PVTG. It is not part of PVTG, right? But is Shompen part of PVTG? Yes, it is a part of PVTG. Okay. Which of the following is geographically closest to Great Nicobar? Again, look, Great Nicobar is coming. Geography, did you remember which one? It is your Sumatra, not Java, right? So here you have your Sumatra, then you have your Java, right? Here you have your Borneo, here you have your Sulawesi Island, right? Then here somewhere Papua New Guinea, and here very small Timor-Leste or Timor Islands, right? Okay. So which of the following is geographically closest to Great Nicobar? Answer is Sumatra. Remember, Sumatra is kind of an Indian name, so it will be closer to India. Okay. Like, this is the way you can remember. There is no logic to it, but you can remember. Again, look. This we have discussed, 10-degree channel. Where is it 10-degree channel, right? Which one of the following pairs of island is separated from each other by the 10-degree channel? Answer is Andaman and Nicobar Island. Andaman and Nicobar Island. Okay, okay. And then last couple of questions. Last question, in which one of the following union territories in which one of the following union territories do people of the Onge tribe live? Onge tribe live. So answer is this Andaman and Nicobar Island. So it's not in Nicobar Island, it is found in Andaman Island, right? So Onge is part of which? Onge is part of Andaman. And how do you remember what is the mnemonics? J for Jarwa, O for Onge, S for what? S for Sentinelese, and A for Andamanese, right? Josa, remember this, right? And is Onge part of PVTG? Is it part of PVTG? Of course, it is a part of PVTG. Only one which is not part of PVTG is your Nicobarese. Nicobarese. Okay, it's not part of PVTG. Okay, guys, thank you.